Hold on for a second. What's up, YouTube family? I would like you guys to make sure you like and subscribe to our video. It would help us get into the algorithms so we can be seen and bring more engaging content to you guys. So like I said, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Appreciate you. To another edition of the Pick and Downs podcast. I'm your host, per usual, Sean, here with Zhu and P-Bush. How are you fellas doing?
Oh, doing well, man. It's warming up in Chicagoland, finally above 40 degrees.
Oh, really? Yeah, same here. 45 today. It was a beautiful day.
I know. We'll take it, man. We'll take it. That's almost shorts weather in Chicago, man. Let me tell you. But man, we all I've been seeing on sports lately, man, is baseball highlights. We're getting a couple weeks out, man. A couple weeks out from March Madness. I'm just excited. You know what? It really starts with the tournaments of the conferences, man. This year is going to be very interesting to watch. Zoo, got to check your trend versus the teams that are already
in I'm right telling you.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, I got a couple of teams. I got to look at the stats again, but I think I got all my data points after the conference tournament, tournaments, to finalize my selections, because I really like the tournaments to decide how well they play in that to get in. So.
Yeah, we're gonna get into that probably in like a week or so. So I'm excited for that. But right now, man, I've just kind of been eyeing the NBA a lot the past like week or two, and it's been a lot of fun. Got a lot of movement, a lot of hot teams right now. I think we're gonna talk about a couple of them. So.
For sure. It's definitely, this is the NBA's time to shine right now, because there's not much else going on. I know you mentioned baseball, but please. What is that?
Juan Soto.
Spring season or whatever? I don't even know what that means.
Spring training.
Preseason, whatever.
It's like the summer league, man. It's like
Jesus Christ. That sounds like it sounds like who cares at all. But yeah, right now is the NBA time to shine. They're gonna have a brief moment when they're the major sport. Obviously, there's hockey for you Canadians out there, but they're the sport right now in the United States of America to dominate until March Madness takes over. But yeah, NBA right now, I think things are definitely getting turned up a little more, because there's actually more at stake now. Is we know the good teams now. We know the teams that can make playoffs. Yep. Bad teams, they're tanking, so they're kind of written off right now. But the good teams right now are playing for playoff positioning and don't want to be in that play-in tournament. So there's a little more at stake now with these games relative to the beginning of the year.
Yep.
Yeah. Can't wait. NBA has, I would say, a 1 to 2 week window right now to capture the minds of America. And then we turn it over, like you said, to March Madness. And the thing that's perfect about that is right when the championship game is happening for March Madness, I guess in like the beginning of April. Once that's over, you're pretty much getting ready to start the NBA playoffs. So like I said, man, there's a lot of great times of the year, but I will say this is up there. This time of the year, like I said, I'm not sitting here saying I'm a massive baseball fan. I just acknowledge it. But when you got things like the Masters that come around one time a year, you got March Madness, you got the NBA playoffs, you just have so many things going on. And heck, if you're a diehard football fan and don't care anything about basketball, you have free agency and the combine and the draft. So those are some cool things that happen in the springtime. But right now, as we were just talking about, there are some teams that are trending up and some teams that we probably at the beginning of the year wouldn't have thought would be in this position. Two teams I'm talking about is Detroit Pistons and Houston Rockets. And right now, if you're just looking at playoff seeding, they're firmly in the playoffs. And, I think what is Detroit? They're 6, and I think Houston's like 5. So they're kind of around the same seeding. I guess 5, 6, whatever. But wanted to ask the guys, people, you can start us off. Which team do you see currently that's in the playoffs with Detroit and Houston causing a first-round upset?
Man, this is tough because we're looking at the 2 youngest risers right now. You can't really throw the Thunder in there anymore, man. They've really solidified themselves, obviously. But man, I'm looking at this Rockets team. I think I might have mentioned this a couple weeks ago. 8 guys that are averaging 10 plus points per game. I mean, that if you can't talk about depth, that's unbelievable, right? Ime Udoka's got these guys not only locked in on the offensive side of the ball, but also more importantly for a young team that in a generation that we always kind of talk about as more offensive minded. They're a top 5 defensive team, man. They're very good, very efficient as a defensive team. Obviously, we've talked about Sengun and his impact on this team, but guys like Jalen Green, obviously Amen Thompson, man, just kind of really risen since the new year, especially. And obviously we got Jalen Green, man. He's kind of the leader. So I think the only thing that I hesitate with this team a little bit, and maybe you guys have a thought on this too, is I could see a couple of these guys fighting for who takes the big shot in a game. And that usually is kind of what happens with young teams. And I'd be curious to see. Right now they have them seated. I think they're 5th right now, and the Lakers are at 4. So I'm going to assume that it's probably going to stay about the same heading into the playoffs. Maybe the Grizzlies falter a little bit and fall to that 4 spot. We'll see how well the Lakers continue to mesh with Luka. Obviously, Zoo's got his opinions on that. Looks like he's on that LA Ozempic, man. So it's very possible that the Rockets end up playing the Grizzlies, who you can't really write off. They're not a to me, I think the Grizzlies are actually the most surprising offensive team this year, mostly doing it without Ja Morant, and they're the highest scoring team in the league. I mean, that's just unbelievable. I know Ja's in and out, played games here and there. If they can get him healthy for the playoffs, I think they'll be a tougher beat for the Rockets if the Grizzlies were to fall a spot. But I'm going to assume for right now that they're going to have to play the Lakers. And I'm sorry, but I am not taking the Houston Rockets over the Los Angeles Lakers. I just don't see the star power taking over on the Rocket side, and defense is only going to take you so far when these guys are willing to take it to another level. Speaking of LeBron, Luka, maybe even Austin Reeves.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So, things like that. I'm a little hesitant on the Rockets. So I'm actually going to go with the Pistons. They're one of the hottest teams in the NBA right now. I like the fact that if there is a big shot that's needed, they are going to Cade Cunningham. If anything, if they double team Cade, you can see him kicking it out to Jaden Ivey, finding Jalen Duren in down low. I think you mentioned this a couple weeks ago. Tobias Harris is actually earning his true value.
Yeah. This is his value. Perfect value. This is all I'm asking. Get paid what you're worth, and I'll praise you.
Exactly. And I think that and the Tim Hardaway Jr., I know he's not the greatest, but he's a sniper when they need to. He can get very hot. That's 2 huge veteran presences on the perimeter that I think the Rockets are still missing. I think that's where I'm at this point. And I also just assume that the Pistons may have a slightly easier first-round matchup. They've won 7 in a row as of today. They could pass up on the Pacers, and we don't know what the Bucks are looking like right now. It's very possible that they won't have to play the Knicks in the first round, which is where it's at this moment. If they could get the Pacers in the first round, or a hobbled Bucks team, however you want to, wherever you want to put this team without Middleton now, I'm willing to play with take the Pistons, man. I mean, they're a little bit like the Magic last year, Sean, and I think that's something that we got to consider as well. Maybe they might not get that first round upset, but they could for sure force 6 or 7 games on a team. But I might give them a little slight edge over the Rockets. I think mostly because of the conference, but also just their potential matchup at this point. So give me Cade Cunningham, man. He's the best player out of those 2 teams.
100%. Yeah, as you mentioned, it's definitely between the conferences at the top of the conference because if you're looking at the top 4 seeds, OKC, Denver Nuggets, LA, Memphis Grizzlies, I got a little more of a question mark just because of Ja's health in and out the lineups. So Houston Rockets, I don't think they're going to really overtake those teams. And if they're, as of right now, against the LA Lakers, 4-0. Like, it's like I'm betting on a sweep closer to going 6 games. So, like, they have 0 chance against the Lakers team with that firepower. And as I told you guys, JJ Redick, this is a real head coach. Like, I don't know if you guys saw that game against the Denver Nuggets, the scheme of the head coach and the defensive scheme of how they were pretty much triple teaming Jokic and pretty much help side defensing the guy he throws lobs to and forcing Aaron Gordon to hit 3-point shots and Russell Westbrook to shoot 3. So JJ Redick shows like, okay, Darvin Ham, like, you got the job, you did a cute job, but no, JJ Redick's a legitimate head coach, and that basketball IQ from his podcast, surprisingly, is translating in real life. We're seeing it right before, because if you look at the rosters, not too much craziness, obviously with Luka now, but he hasn't even played that well right now. But this Lakers team right now is playing extremely well, and they're not even close yet because Luka Doncic is still adjusting, playing with LeBron James at this new Lakers roster. So especially with JJ as a head coach, I think he's going to be terrific, especially for a guy in the playoffs where he's extremely intelligent, more time to game plan for teams. So if they're playing against the Rockets, a young team like this, yeah, that's going to be a 4.
Even with Udoka, who's also a very good head coach.
Udoka's really good, but like, one team's got LeBron and Luka. And like, you got a bunch of kids on the other side. So if that's the matchup, it's over. It's absolutely over.
If it's the Grizzlies, I think it'd be interesting. But
that's where, I think it's kind of interesting against the Grizzlies just because of the Ja injury health. Like, even though it's like Scottie Pippen Jr., he's a really nice backup. He's like the kind of backup point guard they were missing when Tyus Jones left his team, and the year after they didn't really replace him. Scottie Pippen Jr. balled out, G League guy. Like, he showed that he could play at this level. He's not just Scottie Pippen's kid. He's actually a real player in this NBA, and he got a nice little contract, and he's showing he could be a nice backup point guard, averaging like 9 points, 4 assists. So when Ja's out, he can step in and play a little more minutes to help out the roster right now. So, but that's my only concern with Ja as of that team, because if Ja's healthy, that team should absolutely they should beat this Houston Rockets team, because this Grizzlies team is also seasoned in many playoff battles. And yeah, Denver, KC, I don't need to say much about those teams. Those teams have been pretty much the 2 dominant teams in the Western Conference. And we're now to this Eastern Conference right now. And you know my thoughts about the Milwaukee Bucks. I'm already fading them. The Giannis injury, the Doc Rivers head coach, the Kyle Kuzma,
Doc.
Like
it's
all
Doc.
those things. Like,
yes,
Doc. You know me and my hatred of Doc Rivers and his overratedness and his hoarse voice and blaming other players. And, I have no chance, and coaching is hard. And man, like, yeah, this is why I'm very anti-Bucks. I'm like I just don't like Doc Rivers at all. He's a very, it's his fault. It's his fault. Never looks at himself in the mirror. Like, he got to get a mirror, look himself in his hoarse voice, and yell at himself like, man, I got to be better as a head coach, because this Milwaukee Bucks team is definitely underperforming based on the level of talent on this. Mm-hmm. They're 57% winning percentage. Like, the Detroit Pistons right now, like, they just switched ahead. They're 1 game behind, and all they did was switch a head coach. Like, this Bickerstaff guy, he's doing a terrific job. Like, I remember he was the coach of the Cavaliers, and when he joined the team, like, that's when they got kind of a really similar situation where they had all these young players like Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen. Obviously, they got Donovan Mitchell, which elevated this franchise, but they had all these young players, and it started to become like a winning franchise from like a really bad team. And the Detroit Pistons are doing the same exact thing. Yeah. Like, Bickerstaff is like, he's shown that he can really work with young players and help develop them and help them win games. And obviously they added a bunch of vets, which I think is the most important reason why they're actually winning games now, because you just need vets on a young roster. But at a 55 winning percentage clip, like Cade Cunningham, like, I'm excited to see him in the playoffs for the first time, because I remember that draft. I'm like, this guy Luka Light. He Luka Light because he's a little skinnier, but he plays like the same way, and he likes the play style. And Jesus Christ, 26 and 10. 26 and 10. I remember people fell asleep of Cade Cunningham after he came in the league because the Pistons were just so awful that it's just like, well, maybe these just empty calories. No, I'm just like, his team was young and he had 0 vets on the roster, and they finally addressed that. And this dude just puts up the most ridiculous numbers ever. And I think he's a playoff caliber guy, because I just feel like he could dominate the pace of possessions. That's the thing. He can slow down the pace, dominate high pick and roll, obviously throw the lob, and he's become a really good 3-point shooter, or an elevated 3-point shooter relative to the previous years. So I feel like that is extremely interesting. Against this Pacers team, I have no faith in the Pacers. No faith. Like, they need I think if they play the Pacers, they could definitely beat the Pacers. Bucks, I know I don't like Doc Rivers that much, but if Giannis plays, Giannis by himself could dominate an entire playoff series, especially against this young Pistons team. But if they get the Pacers, that's the key. If they could get the Pacers, they could definitely beat that team, because the way they play is just high pace and try to outrun you and pretty much out-hustle you based on pacing and getting a bunch of 3-point shots over you guys. But if they could slow down the pace against that Pacers team, I think they could have a little upset in the first round they play against this Indiana team.
And Duran can hold his own against a Miles Turner.
Yeah,
right?
And he's a really nice rim running center.
Strong 6'10", 6'11".
But I think the biggest thing that this team's gotten right is, I think a lot of people were concerned when they went like Cunningham, Ivy, right? Like, oh, are these guys going to be able to play together? It doesn't seem that bad to me. I mean, I know Ivy's a bit more of a combo guard, but he's definitely had the ball in his hands his entire life. And now being able to kind of give up the ego a little bit to give it to Cade and let him run the show, that's huge, man. And that's pure coaching right there. That's all Bickerstaff.
Yeah, Bickerstaff was kind of – sometimes they talk about an NBA. Now, this may happen in NBA more than NFL, but it may happen in NFL sometimes. But I feel like because of just the game and how I feel like a lot of the rosters in the NBA are super young, sometimes the coaches' voices get drowned out. And if you don't have enough veteran voices to keep the guys who are younger on, I guess, the right path, quote unquote, the coach's voice just gets drowned out and then it becomes monotonous and then they underperform. And like you said, with the Cavs, you see all that talent and then you hear rumors about Donovan Mitchell almost, may go to New York or whatever. I think sometimes I won't say it's a panic move they made, but it's like, let's just get somebody in here that's different. And obviously Atkinson has been an upgrade because he's got the Cavs playing as the best team in the East.
Yeah.
And like you said, JB Bigstaff bounced on his feet. I think most people respected him enough to be like, okay, let's give this guy another chance. He's got Detroit playing better. Going back real quick to Houston, I think the only chance they have is if they play Memphis. Because do I think Ja will be hurt during the playoffs? No. I think it's maybe they're managing him a little bit more because it's just a regular season and it's just let's keep him healthy, get to the playoffs. I would pick Memphis, but I wouldn't be shocked if Houston won that series because I still go back to guys like Fred VanVleet and dudes like Şengün. Like, even though we don't talk about those two as much because the highlight guys on there is like Amen Thompson, Jalen Green, guys like that. But it's like those two guys that they could become vital. Like VanVleet running an offense in a playoff series would be vital. And I think Şengün, in terms of just his matchup, like him and Jaren Jackson would be a hell of a matchup I would love to see. I think Jaren would maybe get the best of them, but I just think they both could go blow for blow. Yeah. And then at that time, you're talking about the wing depths. Like I kind of like Houston's wings a little bit more than Memphis. So I don't know. I think that could be a 6 or 7 game series. But to your guys' point, if they played the Lakers, it'd be tough.
And it would be a Dylan Brooks rematch, which would be
fun.
Oh my God.
Dylan Brooks would maybe, I don't know. Now that I think about it, Dylan Brooks would do something crazy to get somebody from Houston thrown off, and then, or not Houston, but somebody like Ja, whatever, thrown out, and then maybe that gives Houston the advantage because Dylan is good for that. And he, like I said, he's not a bum, but he's good for irritating and making a couple of threes. So
Lance Stevenson
shift the series.
Yeah, he's an antics guy.
Basically. Yep. Yeah, the antics guy. He gets everything and everybody started and gets the crowd going. So maybe that is what shifts the tide in that series. But going to Detroit, I don't know, man. Cade obviously is the guy. And I mean, he was picked number 1 for a reason. So we all knew the talent was there. But sometimes you get lost in Siberia when your team is winning, 8, 9, 10 games a year. Rough. Right. But, not just Cade, like that. This team is like oddly not deep, but they got some dudes. Like if you look down the roster, like we talked about Tobias, he's playing his role. The key, I think, to if they say they get into a playoff series with just say the Pacers, I think the key is if Asar keeps coming along as a guy who's like, athletically on the wing, you can't stay in front of him, and he brings defensive intensity. It's like shooting's gonna come, but like just the defensive intensity and drawing fouls, getting to the line, that's gonna shift a lot of things in their favor because now I think they have the shooting with Malik Beasley and Tim Hardaway Jr. They have those guys, like especially Malik. Like Malik, I think could get hot and win you a game in a series. Like he can just get hot and win you a game. So now you're talking about that
this year.
Like. I think the only year he didn't shoot good was with the Lakers. I think that literally was the only year he didn't shoot good was with the Lakers. But, and I'm going to say this and make this comparison, and it's not going to come to fruition this year. And he's got a long way to go in terms of his mid-range game. But I think Durant on his high end could be a Bam Adebayo type of guy.
Oh,
I think he could be that type of player.
They got the similar body type.
Yes. But the thing that I like about what Durant does and that Bam does, and he was doing it early too, is that Durant, when he gets in that high post, he's like, I saw a crazy pass he did to Cade the other day. It was like an underhand, and it was like a zip pass. And it wasn't like a classic big man pass where it's like he, full chest pass and it's just like it looked traditional. It looked like he turned around and quickly saw it because Cade was cutting pretty fast, and he quickly saw it and just flicked it to him, and it was on the money, and Cade dunked it. And I was like, well, that's kind of high level for a guy who's in his 2nd or 3rd year. So I was like, if he has the ability, even though that was 1 pass and he's only averaging probably like 2 assists, but you just see, if you watch it live, and like I watched the replay, but when you see that live, it's like that looks like a type of skill that he can develop more. Now, obviously, what Bam had that he doesn't have, and I haven't seen a lot of, is Bam, when stuff is like it's like 5-6 on the shot clock, he can get a midi and can make that. Like he's had a couple of game winners making mid-range shots. I don't know if Durant has that in his game, but just in terms of the skill set and being a guy. Also, too, I saw him we were talking about this topic, I was like just looking at Durant highlights. He was playing against Zubac, and Zubac's like a big dude.
Yeah,
and like Durant was behind him, and Zubac could not move him. Like Zubac just could not get him off the post, and he tried to make a jump hook, and it was like short. But it just, if you look at Durant too, he's a big dude. So it's like, I think matchup wise, when you're talking about like, how many guys he's going to be going against that's going to be his size, probably not a lot. Now, his offensive game is left to be desired, but he's also enhanced as well, because the same thing I was talking about with Luka and Jackson Hayes, even more with Cade and Durant, like pick and roll game. Good night. Like those guys going to be able to get buckets and make positive plays. So, and also too, there's, like I said, I just mentioned Asar. There's other guys on the roster that complete it. So to me, it's going to be about the matchups. Like, if I had to pick out of like Bucks, Knicks, and Pacers, of course you want the Pacers, because it's just you're talking about Tyrese and Obi Toppin and Nembhard, I guess. Like you're talking about guys who you feel like you match up well with.
Right.
The Bucks, like you say, Giannis could take over a series. Well, I will say with the Knicks, I think that could be super interesting, just because Knicks haven't really played well against good teams this year. And I know they just got beat down by Boston, but that's a bad matchup. But like, even before the Luka trade, when they played the Lakers, like they look like very lethargic in that game. It's just every time I've seen them on national TV, they haven't looked good. They haven't looked good. So it's like they like on paper, when you look at it, like you think about Brunson, Anunoby, you think about Karl Anthony Towns, whoever else. Like you think about these names, Josh Hart.
They don't have holes like in their lineup.
Yeah, but it's like
they have a really good player at each position.
And obviously, if you're thinking off of past performances, your stars are Brunson and Cat. But again, it's like we talk about in these playoff matchups, styles make fights. It's like, as we get into the playoffs, Brunson is a killer, but it's like, who would you rather have? You would probably rather have the 6'7" guard who was starting to play out of his mind. Now, it is a difference when you get to the playoffs, and that might be his learning lesson. Like, if they play the Knicks this year, he might get a rude awakening of like, no, this is playoff basketball, and he has to learn. But it's like, if all things are equal, you kind of want the bigger guard who can do a lot of the same stuff. And Cade's not a stiff on defense. He's not stiff on defense. So I don't know. That could be an interesting series.
They'd put OG on Cade, and they'd put Brunson on
probably Hardaway.
Yeah, actually, probably Hardaway.
Yeah, Ivy's been out for a couple months, so
that's true.
Depending on when he
I think that matchup is second. Like, obviously, again, I'll pick the Pacers, but I would definitely pick I'd rather have the Knicks than the Bucks, because there's absolutely no matchup for Giannis. And sometimes when you get these thing too, we got to think about with playoffs is it's the same thing with like if the Grizzlies didn't have Ja in a series, the Houston Rockets might gentleman sweep them, because it's like you get to see the same team over and over. So you're game planning for that team. Sometimes teams get caught up in that when you're running around in the regular season. That's why like a team like Utah or Charlotte can be to LA or Golden State or whoever on a random night, because it's like you're not really planning for them. It's just like, unless it's a JJ. Now, if you're JJ Redick's team, to Zoo's point, you probably are planning for it because he's just maniacal. But most guys and coaches are not going through that. So I don't know. I just think the Knicks just haven't impressed me on these national stages and playing against good teams. So it would not be shocked. And, let's just say the Detroit Pistons were up 2-1. Now, I don't know how the betting would go with that, but like, would I then bet the Detroit Pistons win the series? No, because I think the Knicks will come back and win it. But it's, I think they can make it super, super, super interesting. But to your point, I think people should make it as like, yeah, these teams, their futures are bright. Especially, I think Detroit's got a really, I don't know what their draft capital is, but yeah, if Cade's really, he is the dude. I ain't gonna say he's the dude. Like him, and then Durant keeps his ascension.
Yeah, they got the point in the center on lockdown. Ivy's a nice swing man for the future. They just need to legitimize
Asar. Like if Asar, because Asar, come out of school, they considered him the better prospect because he could shoot really well. So it's like if his shooting gets to where it was in high school, I don't know. Like Amin was always he was taller and a better athlete, but they liked Asar because Asar could shoot. So if Asar brings his shooting around, then you have a wing who's athletic. Because that's the thing about the Thompson twins, dude. Athletic, they are the two most athletic kids in the association. Like it's unreal the stuff they be doing. Like, and it's not just when people think about athleticism, it's not just dunks and like crosses. It's like stupid stuff where like, say you're going for a right-handed layup, they jump off like their right leg and it's like their back. They just make weird shots. It's like, how are you doing that and have that balance? Yeah, they have this weird type of contortion with their body where they can just make all kind of like layups. So once they both get refined, it's going to be whatever. So I don't know. I do like Detroit's future a lot. I do like their future a lot. And I'm Mr. Houston and Orlando. But Detroit, shout out to Bickerstaff, man. Shout out to him.
Yeah.
We're going to see, like I said, this series, not series, but this season is going to come down to a lot of seeding. So we're going to see how that all shakes out. But going into our last topic for today, if I can find it. On the other side, some of these teams that we see on a nightly basis, if you're a league pass guy, you like to watch them because they have interesting players. Like Zion plays for the Pelicans, and you have Lamelo that plays for the Hornets. And individually, they are talents that, like you said, if you have a league pass, you just watch them. It's like, oh, these are guys who can put up points, and they're really good. And if you're watching the game and don't look at the scores or the records, you're like, oh, these guys are really good. Maybe their teams are decent. And then you look at the standings; they both have 14 wins. So, it's a tough slate for Pelican fans, and it's a tough slate for the Charlotte Hornet fans. And you kind of put yourself, I guess, in their shoes, and you're looking at options of what you would want to do. And it's a long way up. So, Zhu, if you had the option between the Pelicans and the Hornets, which rebuild would you want to tackle?
So this is extremely tough because you're looking at two cornerstones right now. And
this is
Zion,
easy, man.
This is easy? No, I don't think it's easy at all. I don't think it's easy at all because you're looking at the two cornerstones right now. You got Zion as the cornerstone for the Pelicans, and you got Lamelo as the cornerstone for the Hornets. And the problem with both of these guys, they're both significantly injury prone. We know about Zion. Like we were talking in the beginning, he missed 50% of the games he's played in his career so far. But when he plays, he's an absolute stud. I remember a couple years ago when he missed that play-in game, I was just like, man, this sucks that he got injured. So like Zion, when he balls, this dude is a freak of nature, and I think he can impact playoff basketball based on his athleticism right now in his prime. He could definitely affect winning games because he could ball handle and lead an offense. LaMelo Ball, I loved him when he came into the draft. I remember I wanted the Bulls to get LaMelo Ball. Sadly, we got Patrick Williams, one of the worst consolation prizes in NBA history. Yeah, man, LaMelo Ball, you end up with beat-up. So, like, it's what happens with the lottery gods out there. But for me, LaMelo Ball, he is one of the most creative basketball players. The way he plays is very street ball-esque, very just in your gym, and he just does crazy moves like
LA Fitness.
Yeah. Pretty much, yeah. You're just like goofing around LA Fitness, like practicing your moves, but he actually does it in the NBA game, which is actually it's crazy impressive. His skill set, like his ball handling, is ridiculous. He's like a true combo guard. And LeVar Ball said, like, got Jello the shooter, Belonzo's the passer. LaMelo could be a little bit of both. He wasn't lying because he's a definition of a combo guard, and he could do a little bit of both. But I don't know, there's something wrong with the ball's like legs or something. Like they look like twigs, absolute twigs. They get injured consistently on their lower leg injuries, like calf, ankle, like just hamstring, just every lower body injury. Just like I feel like also LaMelo, he doesn't look like a gym workout warrior. Like I don't think he's like in the gym hitting weights. Like
he's riding his go-kart on top of his rooftop, man. That's what he's doing.
LaMelo's a child. He's a child. He's
23.
He acts like he's 13. He acts like he's 13 right now. Same as the ball when he was in the show, The Ball in the Family. It's still the same little child
he's
out
there. He's a baby of the family.
But he's 6'7" now, and he get 26 points a game, which is really, really impressive. But just watching his plays, I don't know he could be a leader of even a playoff team right now.
Fair.
That's the thing. Like his play style is very high volume, and the number of turnovers, and like this guy just. Like I'm not asking for much. I'm just asking you to make the play-in tournament. Like let's baby steps here. We're not talking about the
playoffs. He's made one, but I think
like this guy's at 14. Like the only team that's worse than them is the Washington Generals, because that's what I'm calling them this year. They're the Washington Generals. 10 wins, 47 losses. Like Jordan Poole's squad down there. So that's the only team statistically they're better than in the Eastern Conference. So I'm like, and like the team is like. This is one of those like young teams you're looking at on paper. Got some very interesting players. Like we got Williams, the guy that the Lakers wanted, who traded
balling out.
Pretty good package. Like objectively, Adults Connect, a nice rookie, first round pick. Like those are some legitimate assets. Looking for a big center. So obviously he's a nice young player. Obviously LaMelo Ball, like Miles Bridges off the court, that dude's a bozo. But on the court. He's a productive scorer. He's a 20-point guy. Like he's a really good athlete. He's a 20-point like combo scorer. And then you got Brandon Miller too. Like if you look at on paper, like Brandon Miller.
Well, he's hurt this year, but yeah, he's a good player.
Yeah, but if you look at on paper, you're like, this seems kind of nice. Like, it's kind of nice, but they just somehow they can't, like, the 14 wins. Like, we know why the New Orleans Pelicans got 14 wins. The team just can't stay healthy at all either.
Neither can the Hornets.
Yeah, the Hornets
Grant
are a little
Williams
more.
has been out.
The major thing is Zion Williams.
I forgot Grant Williams was on that team.
Yeah. Look at their starting lineup. If you look at all the games started,
Look at the roster now.
12 dudes. It's like 12 dudes have started for this team. It's like the Bears' offensive line. That's how I view this team, man. It's started so many different people. But Zoo, sorry, I'll let you finish.
Yeah, for sure. So, like, on paper, they're like, this is kind of an interesting roster. But LaMelo Ball is your cornerstone. Like, if you're revolving your franchise to LaMelo Ball, you're going to go as far as LaMelo Ball is going to carry. And I know you guys make fun of Mr. Fat Zion Williamson. I'm not off the ship yet. I'm not off the ship with Zion Williamson because he looks a little leaner now.
Cargo ship, man. Let me tell you that.
Oh, my God. But what I say about one thing about Zion Williamson, when he's on the court, I think he absolutely impacts winning way more than LaMelo Ball.
Of course.
Like, way more. Like, his ability to actually dominate a game at different aspects. I was like LaMelo does a little dancing, shoot little threes or whatever. Zion Williamson can punish you as just an absolute one of the best rim scorers ever. Like, his ability to score in the paint is unstoppable. And if you look at their nice young players, too, they shipped out Brandon Ingram because obviously chemistry didn't work at all. That was an absolute disaster fit. But if you're looking at Trey Murphy,
nice player.
3-and-D. He's
I
a
like
really
him.
nice 3-and-D
I like
player.
him.
He's like the prototypical 3-and-D guy.
Yep.
Herb Jones, who's been injured all year, one
Yep.
of the best defenders in the league. This is another 3-and-D, like the prototype. CJ McCollum, he's a nice, like, old veteran.
34,
guard.
man.
Like, yeah, he's whatever. Like, CJ McCollum's the whatever guy. I'm mainly looking at two dynamic, and Jordan Hawkins, I like him from.
I like him too.
He's a nice, like, rotation 6-man type of scorer. So you got some shooting around Zion, and obviously Zion as the cornerstone. I'm gonna bet on Zion as the cornerstone over LaMelo Ball.
Okay.
And that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. As the cornerstone of the franchise, LaMelo Ball ain't gonna win me playoff games.
And neither is Zion.
I think Zion's gonna win playoff
So
games.
he's the reason they win 50% of the time. Then they would be a 500 level team because he misses 50%, and he's the reason they lose those games. So they should be a 500 level team based on what you're saying. Whenever he plays, he wins them games. No. And I know his team's not as good, all right? But you can make the same
especially
argument.
this year with the number of injuries. With the
Both of these teams are injured. Probably two of the most
yeah,
injured teams.
Yeah,
this
most
year.
injured teams. Yeah.
Okay, so I approach this a little differently, and the reason I said it's easy is because if I'm a GM and you hire me in, give me the team that I have more to work with and potentially move around to get more. And I think you can trade guys on the Hornets for a lot more assets to rebuild, either around LaMelo. I would actually trade LaMelo. I would keep Brandon Miller. I'd keep Brandon Miller. I'd keep Mark Williams. I would move Miles Bridges. I'd move LaMelo, and you can damn sure get more for LaMelo than you can for Zion.
And that's a fact. That's exactly how I look at it too.
You got me there.
And he's younger. I know he's got the injury issues, but I think this is a very similar team to the Pistons. They have no veterans. Grant Williams is probably their most veteran player. I think they have Yusuf Nurkic, man, but he's played 5 games.
Yeah,
all right. Grant Williams has not played like at all this season. Brandon Miller, wrist injury, opted for the surgery out for the year. Great call. Just
Seth Curry.
Healthy.
He's the only veteran.
There you go. Seth Curry. Come on, man. He doesn't. No. So as a GM, I'm looking at this team, man. You can either keep LaMelo. I think either way, now that that trade didn't go through, they are keeping Mark Williams. I mean, he's an offensive machine down low, double potential. I think he's just under 10 rebounds a game this year. The reason this team sucks, they shoot 42% from the field as a team. Every one of their shot creators takes bad shots. So the thing that I would want to avoid actually is getting a guy like Ace Bailey. He is the worst person to fit on this team because he is the exact same player as pretty much everybody else on this team, right? So I get it. Zion's the higher profile player when he's on the floor, but I would argue that he's also not a championship level player. He needs somebody to get him the ball. That's why they really never
I don't know about that because I think he's a really good ball handler for
he's good.
His power forward.
He's a poor man's Giannis. That's really what he is. He's a poor man's Giannis. and he can't stay as healthy.
Yeah,
And
he's
Giannis
a point
has had
forward.
his,
He's a point forward. Yeah.
he's a point forward, but Giannis is more dominant than Zion, in my opinion. Now, take that for what, like, if you want to take that as Giannis 2021 when he was at his peak, sure, he's gotten more injured now, but he's in his 30s now, right? Zion is still, what, 25 years old? 26, maybe? Yeah. And I really don't know, to Sean's point, I think we were talking about this pre-pod, like, what are you going to get for a guy that is only going to be getting older and has weight issues, right? I mean, you know, people said, "Oh, Luka's got weight issues." Like, whatever, you know, put Zion on Ozempic.
Luka's game is way different too.
Way different. Zion is all about explosion.
Zion needs athleticism to be successful.
But the reason I made the point about the Hornets back to the Pistons is that the Pistons just needed a good head coach. They needed someone to get a little bit more discipline. They needed to add more veteran presence, which is exactly what the Hornets need to do. And they could easily get a package of 3 veterans for LaMelo Ball plus draft capital. 100%.
And difference is with the Pistons, Cade Cunningham's that guy. I think.
Agreed. 100%.
He's that complete player.
I agree, but
LaMelo got little holes.
You could trade LaMelo Ball to the Wizards. Do you think you could get the Cooper Flag pick?
No.
Really?
No. I don't
like Cooper Flag, Miles Bridges.
I don't. People do not trade number 1 overall picks. Unless it's in like that.
I don't think they could get
Cleveland
the
Cavaliers,
Cooper
Kevin Love situation.
It would have to be like it had.
Then I would pick not Ron Harper, Dylan Harper, man, 100%, because he's the type of guy that they need. I mean, he could shoot, a big wing guy, definitely complements guys like Brandon Miller. He's probably a more poised player than Miles Bridges is, obviously off the court, but on the court as well. And we got Mark Williams. I mean, I don't know. If I'm a GM, I'm actually salivating at being able to take over this Hornets because it's honestly hard to mess up this. They should be able to make moves like the Thunder and really just start saying, you know what, screw it. We're going to keep 1 or 2 guys and we're just going to go all in the next 5 years and just build this team through draft capital, drafting dudes, signing veteran players. And you're in the Eastern Conference. Like
you got me there. You're in the Eastern Conference. It's pretty easy to jump into the play-in tournament and then the playoffs.
They could easily be a 7 seed team if they were healthy and had more discipline.
Yep.
You know what though? I would say that I do like the head coach that they got. I can't remember his name, but he's from Boston and he brought a lot of Boston personnel down there. So I can't remember. I'm forgetting his name, but he was like really highly thought of. Yes. I don't know why I was thinking Clinton. It's not Clinton. It's something.
Charles Lee.
I knew it started with the C.
His first year.
Yeah. It's just you got to establish the culture. And it was better than what they were doing with they had one coach and then brought him back. And then it's just that that just never works. Yeah. It's just none of that works. When you fire a guy and bring him back, it's like, oh, we're renewed. It's like, what? No. You got fired for a reason or let go, whatever the situation was. So I do think they have a good coach and a staff. And I think Kimber Walker is on that staff. So I think can maybe be a presence that's needed for guys like LaMelo and Miles and whoever. But I will say that I did think about your scenario, P-Bush, with like who would I trade? Like if I had full autonomy, not like, oh, we got to keep LaMelo or Zion because of tickets. Like if I had full autonomy to make any type of trade I wanted to, it's like, okay, well then more than likely I would go to LaMelo's representatives and be like, you've been in Charlotte for a while. We paid you. It's like, what do you think about, like, is there, because sometimes players get in there. I mean, he's only been in the league for like, 4 or 5 years, however long. Sometimes players get to a move where they're like, okay, well, maybe I want to go somewhere where I have a little bit more of a chance to win. Mm-hmm. And if that's the case, then I start shopping you around, you making calls. And it's like, you can maybe get, to your point, some good picks. I don't think you're going to get any picks in like the top 5 because most of those people are going to try to keep it for flag. But if you can maybe get some good players, like I said, a couple of veterans and then a couple of picks, that could be really enticing for the Charlotte Hornets because I do think there's a possibility that even though Brandon Miller was hurt this year, just his ascension of how he was ending his rookie year and how he came into this year, he has a chance to be not LaMelo, but he has a chance to be the number 1 guy on the team. And if you get a guy like a Dylan Harper, if you're able to get into a top 3 pick, that's like a really steady guard. And then you pair him with Brandon Miller, then all of a sudden you're cooking with grease. Because then, like you said, you got Mark Williams already who they're not going to trade. And I would say, even if, say, I got, the management came to me or the ownership came to me and said, we're never trading LaMelo Ball, and he hangs up the phone. It's like, I think the coach And LaMelo's game is very different. And I do think that it would have helped him early in his career if he came in with like real vets. Because if you look at the Charlotte Hornets, every year since LaMelo's been there, it's the AAU team. Like, it's just literally if you look on the roster, it's a lot of guys from like, I know everybody plays AAU, but it's a lot of known AAU guy names who were dogs in AAU. Like, Trey Mann was a dog in AAU. But it's like he came in with like a super young squad, right? Yep. So he kind of was able to just do whatever he wants. And I feel like it's almost a little bit of a disservice because I still think LaMelo, to me, even though he's been hurt, I just always thought, like, if he could get in a playoff series, I would love to see how he would play, because he is a combo guard who I know he has weird shots and stuff like that, but in the NBA, shot making is valuable. And I think if he had reins, like if he had somebody that could rein it in, there's a lot of guys in the league that can't do what LaMelo do. Like, 3-and-D is obviously important. Defense within a team concept is obviously important in the playoffs. But guys who can, when you're down 4 and there's 3 minutes left, you're on the road, you're down 2-1, you need 8 points. Melo's getting you that, and he may get you 12. So it's like, that's the exciting part. I just wish he had the structure. So to me, I think with the head coach and LaMelo and Brandon Miller come back, I wouldn't be mad if I know Ace is an isolation guy, but like, that's still another 6'8" wing that could get you. So if Ace can't, if he's their third option and you got Brandon Miller and LaMelo,
I don't think they got too many chuckers on the team.
Dylan works because Dylan's gonna need the ball, and you can't have him and LaMelo on the ball. So you have to get rid of him.
Trade LaMelo.
But I'm saying if I can't get rid of LaMelo, I can't take Dylan. So
I don't think you take either. Maybe you trade back. Maybe you
could trade back.
And you get those veterans
and get more. That's a good point. You could trade back, get like maybe an older college player. I don't know who the older college players are. I haven't done my homework, but like if you trade back into the teams, get like a ready-made guy, like a Jaime Jaquez or something like that type player to go along.
Like what's his name? The other Heat guy, the other Serbian dude. What's his name?
Jovic.
Jovic.
Yeah. Or like a Khalil Ware, like somebody could, whatever. But it's like, if I had my first option, I'm taking the Charlotte job and I'm fielding offers for LaMelo, because I probably would get a better return. Like Zion,
the first pick. It's very possible.
I don't think they're giving up.
No. I don't think anyone would trade Cooper Flag for LaMelo Ball.
Could they be in bottom 3? You guys got to remember, the worst team doesn't get.
They can win the lottery.
They have an equal chance to win the lottery.
But I think those guys are giving up like who is it right now? Washington,
Utah,
like in the bottom 3. None of them are giving up.
New Orleans. New Orleans could get this pick.
Okay, so Hornets are 4th.
Hornets are 4th.
That's very possible.
They have a 12.5% chance of getting Cooper Flag right now. Well, New Orleans has a 14%.
Very possible.
Chance. They're in the running.
We're discounting the team that they could move off of Miles Bridges, have LaMelo. They could have, what their starting line would be: LaMelo, Brandon Miller. If they kept Miles Bridges, whatever, put him at the small forward. Cooper Flag, Mark Williams.
That's a nasty lineup.
That is nasty on paper.
And you know what the answer to this question is? Whoever wins the lottery out of these two teams against Cooper Flag, man, that's the team you want to be general manager of. That's the answer.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, because
that too.
Especially with this draft.
Okay, if I get Cooper,
especially with this draft coming up, they're saying there's multiple potential like all-star caliber prospects. Ain't last year's draft with a bunch of role players at the top.
Right.
Like, these are potential all-star caliber players that could change your franchise. Like, it's a really, really important year for these teams to not mess up this draft, because that's going to put you back years if you don't make the correct.
Yeah, the fit is the top 3 with Ace, Dylan, and Cooper. Like, there are tiers. I don't like. I think Cooper is obviously the number 1 pick, but I don't think it is like he's tiers above like Ace and Dylan. I don't think it's like it's Cooper and then a huge drop off. I think it's Cooper. Then it's like most people are battling Dylan or Ace. Some people like Dylan and then Ace. Like, I just think the reason why I'm higher on Ace is I've just seen more of an athletic profile, and I know Cooper gets stereotyped in that. But if you watch Cooper, he's not an athletic freak demon. He's a good he's got a the thing about Cooper I love the most is his skill set to pass. Like I think he could be a really good passer on the next level. Mm-hmm. But it's just like when you're on that wing position, you better be able to move your feet, because if you can't, it's gonna be
Probably I think he'll be power forward at the next level.
Yeah, he'll be a power forward, but I just like he's got a super just well around game. But like you said, this year's draft versus last year's, you got those top three. The real answer is if you can get in that lottery, that might be the team I want to be a part of. And like you said, it could be Houston, Washington. Please God, don't let it be San Antonio.
Yeah, I swear to God.
Please God, let's just if you're listening.
Man.
The thing,
if you're listening,
I have to mention this because San Antonio not only got their own draft pick, they have the Atlanta Hawks draft pick unprotected from the DeJounte Murray trade. And with the way Atlanta is dropping right now, obviously with injuries to Johnson, like this team might fall down. So they got 2 shots, 2 lottery ball tickets to get a potential pick. So that team don't need any more talent because even these
Remember
guys.
when David Robinson got injured?
Yeah, I don't need history to repeat itself. Wemby out, they get a high draft.
They're recreating the 90s, Zoo. They're recreating the 90s.
They're giving all this help to the small markets.
The Bulls get their Michael Jordan.
Exactly.
Listen,
I want my Michael Jordan.
It is very funny, and just if you look at it, like a lot of these teams that got the superstars and they have like really deep teams, small markets are back. They're back. I don't know if Adam Silver wants to hear that, but it's just right now how everything's trending and basically who's got the best front offices is a lot of these small market teams. So I don't know. If I had to go out and place a bet, I don't think Cooper's going to end up in San Antonio. But to your point, Zoo, like having multiple chances at getting the pick is a little nerve wracking. It's a little nerve wracking. And with Wembanyama, like you said, I think said last week when he got hurt, it's like, there might be a chance. Who knows? But we'll see. Like I said, NBA draft is coming up. NFL draft comes up before that. Both things that we'll be talking about in this pod for weeks to come. Make sure you're tuned in to Tyson Talks _ on Instagram, Quantro Knows on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts for the audio adventure. Make sure you give us 5 stars. Make sure you like the post so we can be in your algorithms. And for me, Zoo and P. Bush, we are out.